And welcome into On the Preds with me, your host, Alex Doherty of A to Z Sports, and Shaun Smith of On the Forecheck. We are here today, February 20th, episode 17. We've done 17 episodes of this, and we are finally ready to take on the Preds' first 4-game losing streak. How about that?
Yeah, I guess I'm ready for it. I've been mentally preparing myself for this for a while now. Everybody talks about regression to the mean and um,
Wait,
coming
who's
off of
talking about regression to the mean? Who's talking about that?
some people on the internet. They like to talk, Alex, the people.
Yeah. As if there's just some absolute truth of like what a hockey team really is, and it can just
Yeah.
all you can do is just all you have to do is crunch the numbers the right way, and you find the actual truth.
Numbers are incredible. They can tell you whatever you want them to tell you.
Wow, we're already getting started off on a hot streak here because I just think I'm not trashing numbers, people. I'm not just saying. The team has lost 4 straight, and there's probably not a whole lot of rhyme or reason to it, but we're going to try to identify at least 2 things that need to happen in order for the Preds to course correct. I say course correct because I think the Predators are not necessarily in a bad place or in a much different place than they were earlier. I think in a couple of these losses, they played pretty well. In a couple of losses, they did not play well. But I don't think there's not a reason to panic. I think that there's not too much going wrong with this team. They've had a few bad results. I think that this week will be a big test on whether they can right the ship. But I don't want to act like nothing's happened. There are 2 things that I think need to happen, and I'm curious to see if you have any extras as well, Shaun.
I do think I have one to add. I will say that.
Okay, very good, very good. But like I said, it's the second. It's actually the second 4-game losing streak for the Predators this year. But it's the first time that all 4 losses were in regulation. They had one earlier in the year where there was one overtime loss in there. So, weirdly enough, all these losses are makeup games. All the makeup games from the 2-week stretch where they didn't have any games earlier from COVID. So I don't know. Maybe the Preds just don't perform well in makeup games.
I don't know. Can you think maybe there's a reality in which they mentally prepared to have those weeks off and just not have to play makeup games? And
I don't
so,
know.
I've heard this thing where, and I don't know how much this relates, but where, if you've got a particularly busy day, for example, you need to go to bed by like 8, 9 o'clock. You're going to self-sabotage by staying up later because you feel like you've been cheated out of free time during the day.
Yeah.
And so I don't know if it's something where it's like, we're supposed to have this off. We weren't even supposed to be open today kind of
Yeah.
argument but that sounds silly. I mean, that would imply that they were being vindictive. That's dumb. They're professional athletes. Why would they do that?
I mean, maybe there's just something they need to play their games when they're originally scheduled. They can't do a rescheduling. I don't know. Doesn't make any sense.
Maybe.
But yeah, so we're going to talk about that. We got several things to cover. We're going to go ahead and get started. Before we get started, though, we have something exciting. We have a couple of exciting things to talk about today, and we finally have on the Preds show, as it is currently known, episode 17, and we finally have some sponsors, Shaun. Some sponsors. Let's talk about our first one. It is Relax the Back, which is in Green Hills, and I would strongly recommend that people go to the Relax the Back store and check out the stuff that they have. If you want to work better, live better, feel better every day, you've got to go to Relax the Back. As we all know, if you sleep well, you will live well, right? If you sleep better at night, you will live better during the day. They have a ton of options for customized comfort when you sleep, work, or just relax at home. I went to check it out. I know, Shaun, you did as well. I checked out this thing called the Perfect Chair, which is it's just a chair, but it really is. It sits you down perfectly. You sit in a perfect position. You can ramp that thing back and put yourself in the zero gravity position. There's also this crazy massage chair called the Chi XE, which is it's like a NASA thing. I mean, it feels like you're in a NASA rocket ship about to take off to Mars. And then also for sleeping, there's this thing called Techno Gel, which when I laid down on it, I was like, this stuff is way better than any mattress I've ever had. And it's even better than memory foam. They have a memory foam mattress and then a Techno Gel mattress. You can lay on both of them and see the difference. So Techno Gel is awesome. But basically, you've just got to go check out the store. A sleep agent is on hand every day to help you figure out how to sleep better and resolve any pain issues. So the store is at 2020 Glen Echo Road in Green Hills. You can learn all about the 4 pillars of wellness: healthy sleep, healthy work, healthy body, and healthy mind. So there you go. Relax the back. Does anyone need any back relaxing right now, Shaun? Anyone on the Predators?
Oh, anyone on the Predators? I don't know what happened to Mark Borowiecki, but I'm surely he could use some back relaxing. Right? I mean,
Yeah, exactly. I would say he needs a little bit of that. I think maybe John Hines needs some because he's having to reach over those boards and yell at the refs all the time.
you're right. There's a lot of extra back stretching motion that's going on, and I feel like he could use a turn in the perfect chair, if you know what I mean.
The perfect chair. What if he's just sitting in the perfect chair behind the bench? That'd be great. That would be awesome for relax the back if they had that. He would look very comfortable. I'll tell you that.
In the zero gravity position.
That's right. All right. I totally forgot to mention this, but we got to recap the last week first before we talk about the 2 things that the Predators need to change. Let's recap the last week. There were only 2 games last week, both of them losses, as we've alluded to. But last Tuesday, Peter Laviolette is back in Bridgestone Arena for the first time since being fired. He's also on the verge of a milestone. If he were to win this game, it would be his 700th NHL win, which is the most ever for a U.S.-born coach. He's just stacking up that record, making it impossible for anyone to catch. Someone like John Hines. So lots of storylines in this one. We had it was a full hashtag narrative going on in the building. Just narratives everywhere. The Caps go up 1-0 on a Joe Snively, which is a very curious hockey name. Joe Snively. That's not much of a hockey name. That's like a villain in Sherlock Holmes.
I played Little League Baseball with a kid whose last name was Snively, and he complained a lot, and so we just started pronouncing it Snively.
There you go. Yeah, Joe Snively with a backdoor goal, but a brilliant pass by Connor Sheary to set it up. After that, the 2 teams really locked horns for quite a while, and to be honest, I really thought the Predators were the better team. They were playing really well, flooding the zone with shots, getting some tips, getting some rebounds. But Samsonov, the goalie for Washington, was really, really good. And the Predators hit a ton of posts. They hit 3 posts in the second period, 1 in the third. Forsberg hit a couple, I think. In fact, one of the posts he hit, the goal horn operator thought he scored, and then everyone went crazy, but it wasn't even close. A little premature celebration there. So then Michael McCarron, a guy who we might talk about later, gets a goal that just bounces off of his head, I think. Bridgestone erupted. Folks going crazy. Preds game. The game was in the Preds' hand for sure. And then it wasn't because Nick Jensen puts the Caps up 2-1 after Garnet Hathaway made a crazy tip pass in the slot. It was just beautiful. Then Ovechkin scores twice as he always does, just trying to catch Gretzky, and including from the power play or from that spot on the power play. And the Preds were totally not in it in the last 15 minutes of the game. So 4-1 loss Tuesday.
Here's no, I was not there, but I did watch it with the kids at home. Here's the thing. I was first kind of surprised, and I'd say that I'm probably in the minority here who is surprised by Laviolette's reception, and maybe that's just because as someone who covers the team, I remember how persnickety it got down in the media room toward the end of the.
I'm glad you're mentioning this. I'm glad you're mentioning this. Go ahead.
Yeah, I really was taken aback by the amount of love and appreciation that the fans still have for Laviolette. And I'm assuming, they look at him and they say, look, you had a coach for a very long time who didn't make much noise in the playoffs. And then Laviolette comes in and they have, quite honestly, incredible success in the playoffs for a few years there. Gets let go, I believe, carrying a winning record on the season. And all my memories, of course, are all in all of this post Stanley Cup run world where we're having little spars down in the media room after the games, and just strange things happening with lines and line blender and all kinds of just, I don't know, decisions that really made you want to question, like, hey, what the hell are you doing? It
Well,
just seemed
John,
weird.
I think there's a lot to be said. I mean, we've talked a lot about how different John Hines is compared to Laviolette. I mean, I covered Laviolette for its entire tenure here here in Nashville. John Hines is they might as well be two different professions. I mean, they're different. They're different people entirely.
Yeah.
And so I'm glad you mentioned that because it was interesting. Obviously, whenever a player comes back into town in Nashville, the fans. I mean, it would unless it's Ryan Suter. Like Ryan Suter's the only exception. Well, Jimmy Vesey, although he didn't never actually play with Nashville. But every single player that comes back to play in Nashville, except for Ryan Suter, is like applauded. I mean, people love it. It doesn't even matter how really minimal they were. I mean, like everything from like a Nick Bonino, who only played a few years, to someone like Shea Weber, to when PK Subban came back. I mean, it's just like people, and I didn't really expect the same kind of reception for Laviolette for the reasons you mentioned. He was kind of, the ending was pretty bad, but ultimately it makes sense because the team saw its absolute peak success with Laviolette in charge. He took the franchise in a new direction. He changed the course of this franchise for the better. Anyone who doesn't applaud Peter Laviolette and the job he did here really doesn't understand the history of the franchise at all, and is not really a fan, I would think.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with you on that. I think the reality for at least me, I don't know about anyone else up on Media Row, was that you have that last memory in your mind, and especially because it had been so long since he'd been back in the building due to COVID and all of the the special divisional play last year and everything, that you're like, oh yeah, he really took this team to a different level. And if you kind of let go of the last couple of months there, you go, man, this is really what took the team from, kind of where they had been mired since they had first appeared in the playoffs, to a team that could go in and make some noise and could be considered a legitimate threat. So yeah, it was nice to see that response. I think it's got to be refreshing. I think as a coach, you see it as a player, like you said, but as a coach to come back and have fans cheer for you, I don't know if it's necessarily vindication as much as it's like, well, no matter what I thought they may have thought about me, they appreciate me now. And I think that's got to be good. So
yeah,
it was good enough that it inspired him to coach his new team to victory.
Yep, and they won. They beat the Predators, 700th NHL win for Peter Laviolette.
Wow.
Then let's move to Friday's game. This was a makeup game that was in Carolina. A little bit of a different story, in my opinion. I never really felt like the Predators had the upper hand in this game. I thought Carolina was the better team pretty much throughout. I I think Carolina is a better team. They're very good. I mean, I think they're kind of built for a long postseason run. I think the Predators could be, but ultimately the Hurricanes are just real good. They've had the Preds number of the last few years. First up, Brady Shea activates and roofs one by Yossi Saros. That was a really nice goal. Jesperi Kotkaniemi puts the Canes up 2-0 in the second on a wrist shot goal from the slot. And Luke Cunnin had a really nice goal in the high slot there late in the second, but then even later in the second, Jacob Slavin scores with 1 second left in the second period, and that was a absolute killer. That made it 3-1. Then a power play goal puts them up 4-1. They were really buzzing. John Hines pulls the goalie with over 5 minutes left, 5.5 minutes left in the game, down 3 goals. And it almost pays off because Philip Forsberg and Tanner Jeannot both score to make it 4-3. But then Roman Yossi commits a slashing penalty trying to get the puck back, and that kills the rally. Hurricanes get an empty netter, 5-3 final. Did you feel the same way that the Predators really were kind of just behind the 8 ball the whole time in this game?
Yeah, I feel like they were playing catch up the entire game. And I think the biggest difference for me between the Carolina game and the Washington game, like you said, I think in the Washington game, they were in it. They were the better team. I think the biggest difference was you had a lot of shots hit the post that would have been goals if they were a fraction of an inch the other way. But against Carolina, you saw the team get down. You saw them play behind. And I don't mean play behind like they played with motivation and momentum to get caught up. It was almost like, I don't know, it's like they get that first goal. Borvietsky gets hurt. Um, and then they're just kind of out of it. And I did appreciate, I mean, I really appreciate because you don't see it a lot. And it's one of those mystical things you hear about on the internet, right? People talk about it on Twitter that the right time to pull the goalie is earlier in the game and not later in the
Mhm.
game. Um, we got to see that live and well, not in person, but we got to see it happen live on TV, and it was working. And I think that's the beautiful thing about it was that you saw a team that was down 3 goals score 2 goals pretty quickly and pretty handily. Again, they can do that. They can play that way. They just hadn't been playing that way for most of the game. They chose to save it for the end in a weird situation. But like you said, Yossi's slash, I mean, he was trying to keep the puck from being shot on the empty net. And if you play with an empty net for over 5 minutes, you're going to have opportunities like that. So it's really tough once you end up in the penalty box to keep bad things from happening in that late of the game and that kind of desperation situation. So
Right.
um, I I don't think they were. I think the word John Hines used was they didn't play a consistent game, and that's been the whole strategy all year. Is that if you do the right thing from the beginning of the game to the end of the game, you wear the other team down. But
Mhm.
you saw periods of time where they weren't playing to their full potential, and I think that's what kind of sunk them.
The Hurricanes style of having a very high pressure team, a high pressure attack where you're constantly dealing with their forecheck. Their defensemen are always activating. I mean, it's a system that we know very well because of the guy we saw in the building on Tuesday. It's
No,
basically Laviolette's system that Rod Brindamore played under and is now coaching with in Carolina. It when it works, it is suffocating. It is so hard for teams to come out from under it, especially if they get a goal early, a couple goals early, which they did. It can just be even worse. It's like you're swimming against the tide basically the whole game. So yeah, that's what happened. I mean, the Carolina is really good. Now, if you go into Carolina and get up a goal or two, and then they have to take even more chances, and you create some odd man rushes the other way, and you capitalize. And if they don't get as good goaltending, you can have some chances. But man, Carolina is a tough team to beat. So
yeah.
the Predators
Did
did
you
not do that.
did you see the fun Hurricanes stat that Brian Baston and I found before the game?
No, what was that?
So since John Hines has taken over the team, he has coached the Predators against the Hurricanes 17 times.
Yeah.
And Barry Trotz, in his entire tenure with the Predators, coached against the Hurricanes 19 times.
Wow.
Laviolette was only 11.
Wow. John
It's
Hines.
over. I think it's almost 12% of the games that Hines has coached has been against the Carolina Hurricanes.
And this one would have been even sooner. Remember, this is a makeup game, so this
Yeah.
one would have been
Yeah.
last November or whatever.
I feel like it was
Uh,
pretty early in the season.
yeah. So
Yeah.
he got a few months off
Yeah.
from the Hurricanes, and now they're
It's
back.
great. It's weird circumstances that lead to it, but that's crazy to me.
Yeah, definitely so. Okay, all right. So that was their fourth consecutive loss. We've got to talk about two things that the Predators need to change, or I should say, two things that need to happen for the Predators to course correct. But before we do that, I do want to talk about our second sponsor, and that would be a sponsor that I actually have been a fan of for quite some time, and that is HelloFresh. HelloFresh is the number one meal kit for America right now. I would swear by HelloFresh. I have been using it. Our family has been using HelloFresh for years now, honestly. When we finally made the switch to go to HelloFresh, it changed the way that we set up our meals in the week. It changed the way we cook. It changed the way we eat. I really, really swear by this. With HelloFresh, you get farm fresh, pre-proportioned ingredients and seasonal recipes delivered right to your doorstep. Skip all those trips to the grocery store and count on HelloFresh to make home cooking easy, fun, and affordable. There's two things that most people say when they don't want to cook at home. They don't have time, and it can be too expensive. HelloFresh cuts back on both of those. First of all, if you don't have time to cook, it is almost every time it's 30 minutes or less. Plus, there's also even quicker meals than that. There are some meals that take about 15 minutes, things like quesadillas and stuff like that. And there's 20-minute recipes, low prep, easy cleanup options, providing an even faster route to putting food on the table. And if you think it's too expensive, HelloFresh is 72% cheaper. Here's some stats for you. 72% cheaper than a restaurant meal of the same quality. And you can save on average over $65 a month when you order HelloFresh instead of grocery shopping. I have seen that in action. We have cut down our grocery bill because we're getting HelloFresh every week. We've been getting it. We get 3 meals a week every single week. And if you would like to try it out, you got to go to HelloFresh.com/Preds16. That's PREDS 16. Use the code PRED16 and you can get 16 free meals and 3 gifts. So if you would like to get, here, let me say this again. You're getting 16 free meals from HelloFresh by going to HelloFresh.com/Pred16. You will get 16 free meals and 3 free gifts. And they just throw in free gifts in your box all the time. You'll get like candy bars and sparkling water and stuff like that, condiments, all kinds of stuff. I love it. It's great. I know, Shaun, you're going to get a box at some point to test it out, right?
Yeah, I'm really excited about it. I can't wait. And free gifts, that sounds really exciting.
Yeah, it's like free food stuff that they're promoting. So anyways, check it out. HelloFresh, promo code PRED16 to get 16 free meals. Okay. I want to talk about 2 things that need to change. And I really came up with these yesterday because I was trying to figure out exactly what was going on with the Predators. And I think that there's one guy that stands out to me as someone that if this player were to be more active and to be more productive, I think you would see some change. Right now, the Predators are a top-heavy team. I think you'd agree with that, right? It's like Roman Yossi, Philip Forsberg, Matt Duchene, occasionally Ryan Johansson, and definitely Mikhail Granlund in there. And then you've got the Jeannot Trennan line, which they may not be productive every time, but every single time they're out there, it's good things happen, right? That's a great line. Outside of that, it is incredibly inconsistent in terms of who's going to be productive. The Johansson line sometimes. Luke Cunnin showed up for 1 goal, but like he hasn't really been there the whole time. You've got Nick Cousins is out right now, and then you've got this really weird line at the bottom of the lineup, and that's where I'm going with this. I think the number one thing is Philip Tomasino needs to be moved up in the lineup. He's doing way too well on his own, and I'm going to show some stats here in a second to prove that. But I think that Philip Tomasino has the potential to really break out in the second half if you give him better line mates. First reaction, what do you think about that?
Not only do I agree, but I've really had to restrain myself from shouting it at the television quite often. I'll say this, and I'm very interested to see the stats because as we know, as much as you're a full picture boy, I am definitely not a stat boy. So I don't understand a lot of the numbers, and when you explain it to me, it helps me understand. But I see in Philip Tomasino, and I've tried to play devil's advocate and say that he's been on this line because he's not getting the opportunity to play in Milwaukee. He's not getting that time with Carl Taylor to round out his game, and that this has been an attempt and an effort to let him learn to have a grittier edge to his game, a more physical edge to his game, to play a little more defensive-mindedly as well as offensively, which is something you've started to see out of Eeli Tolvanen, although you're not necessarily seeing the offensive production you'd like to see. But this kid's ready to go, and I think that the more time he spends on the fourth line, I think the greater risk you are for putting him into a situation where he's going to get hurt. He's not going to be ready to go in and play these big minutes when he needs to, which is when he's young, and to get the opportunity to play with some more skilled line mates. Because the times when I've seen him do that, whether it's been at the rookie development camp or before the season starts and all the preseason games and stuff like that, you're seeing him produce. You're seeing him really kind of take command of the ice. And I want to see that now that we're this deep into the season. I think it's time.
Philip Tomasino's puck skills and vision are there. We have not seen him shoot the puck a whole lot. He has shot. I think, what does he have, like 6 goals, something like that? I mean, he doesn't have that many goals.
I think 6 is right.
Yeah, 6 goals, 9 assists. The problem is when he is stuck on a line with Michael McCarron and Cole Smith, 2 guys who really are just barely even AHL player. I mean, they're AHL players. Michael McCarron is an AHL player. Cole Smith, I guess, is too. Those guys are not NHL wingers for a guy that needs some quality on the other end of it. And I think part of it has been, Nick Cousins goes out with an injury, so they're trying to replace something that Nick Cousins has. But the second thing that needs to change is really more about those guys. But let me just go ahead and talk about this, because Tomasino, to me, I have seen a lot of really good things. I've seen tons of individual play that looks really good. And so I went to some of the expected goal stats. And so just a real quick recap: expected goals, all it tells you is based on where this guy is shooting and also what kind of shot he has, and like the context of the shot attempt, I should say. Based on the context of the shot attempt that he's taking, how much would we expect it to result in a goal? So if Philip Forsberg takes a wrist shot from the slot area, that's a pretty good, or anyone really, that's a pretty good chance of a goal happening. If someone takes a slap shot from the blue line, that has a less chance of resulting in a goal. Still some, but just less. And so forth. So you add those all up, and it leads to a certain amount, and that is how many expected goals. It's not dissimilar from things that baseball and football use in terms of like expected scores. It's very similar. Okay, so let me show you this. This is where, and I tweeted this out, so I just pulled it from mine because this is just easier. The Preds leaders in individual expected goals per 60 minutes. So what that means is every 60 minutes, this is the number of individual expected goals. This individual person is generating this amount of expected goals. The leader on the Preds in that category is Philip Tomasino. He is ahead of Yakov Trenin. He is ahead of Philip Forsberg. He is ahead of Tanner Jeannot. He is ahead of every single person on the Predators roster. 0.99, almost a full goal. So like that doesn't sound like a whole lot, but it really actually is, in terms of most of the time you see like one game, the leader on the team will have like, I don't know, 0.08 or something, or 0.10. So like he's got a lot. This is quite a lot of individual expected goals per 60 minutes. Now, Philip Forsberg plays on a line with Matt Duchene and Mikael Granlund. Yakov Trenin and Tanner Jeannot play together with Colton Sissons. That all makes sense. Philip Tomasino, the leader on the Preds in individual expected goals, is playing with AHL players and big-bodied guys that like to play physical and are not all that skilled with the puck. Michael McCarron's goal last week was scored when the puck hit him off his head or his upper body or whatever it was. And Cole Smith is just not, I'm sorry, Cole Smith's not an NHLer. John Hines really likes him for some reason, I guess because he's big. Philip Tomasino needs to be playing with better line mates than this. So there you go. That's the first thing. And I don't see any reason why Philip Tomasino should not play with Ryan Johansson specifically. Put him with Ryan Johansson. Tomasino, Johansson, Tolvanen, that line would be awesome. I have another line that I think would also make sense, but we'll get to that in a second thing. So initial reaction, did you have any idea that Philip Tomasino led the Predators in this category?
No, I didn't. And I'm actually kind of surprised because you also have Yakov Trenin up above Philip Forsberg as well. And I mean,
Yeah.
I guess you said, good things happen when the herd line's on the ice. And I would agree with that just based on watching. But looking at the numbers, that makes me realize, I do see Trenin. I've always seen him play tenaciously. But seeing that actually yields, him getting up close and getting good chances is impressive too, because I think he's a player. I know we're not supposed to be talking about Trenin here,
No,
but
that's okay.
he's a player that I think has a very well-rounded game. He looks like a menace on the forecheck, but I think that also leads to a lot of situations where he finds himself in possession of the puck again and ready to score in front of the net. So
No, it makes sense. It's fine to mention Trenin because here's the point. Trenin is paired with guys that match his abilities.
right.
Trenin and Jeannot is a match made in heaven. I mean, they're perfect together. They both play the game very similarly, and they're very good. They're very good with the puck, and like that line makes so much sense. Tomasino with Cole Smith and Michael McCarron makes zero sense. You're a car guy. Tomasino with those guys is like if you had, I don't know, name a really awesome classic car. What's a good classic car?
A really awesome, like a Camaro or something, maybe a
Okay.
Mustang.
All right. So like a Camaro from the, I don't know, give me a year. 67? I don't know.
I mean, anything in the late '60s is pretty cool.
Okay.
So
67 Camaro. Putting a 67 Camaro in the same garage as a 2010 PT Cruiser. And being like, here's my car collection. I got a 67 Camaro and I've got a 2010 purple PT Cruiser.
wow.
And people being like, this doesn't make any sense. I really like that car, but this one doesn't make any sense. Why do you have this PT Cruiser?
Well, I'm confused because you're saying PT Cruiser. Those are also Philip Tomasino's initials. So
that is a coincidence. That is not what I'm
okay.
trying to say.
Okay.
Tomasino is the Camaro here, and I'm
okay. All right.
The analogy breaks down a little bit, but
I'm sorry.
Essentially, the point is, you've got a guy that is really good at certain things with the puck. He makes a lot of sense when he's got the puck, and he needs to be with guys. First of all, he's more of a playmaker. He's not a Philip Forsberg type, like a lethal shooter, like a James Neal or something. He's not like that. He's more of a young Matt Duchene, I think. I think he really looks more, or Mikhail Granlund maybe. He's a great passer. He has great vision. He can see the whole ice. He can create individually on his own, but he's really better at like kind of creating space and then allowing someone else to go into that space. That's what Matt Duchene does really well, and Granlund. But when the guy that you're creating space for is Cole Smith or Michael McCarron, there were plays in the Carolina game that Tomasino made brilliant. He would steal the puck and look up ice and make a stretch pass, and then his line mates just didn't have the ability to make anything happen with it. And it's like that's got to be frustrating for him. And if you move that guy up in the lineup and get him some players like maybe not Johansson, just at least put him with Tolvanen. I mean, at least put him with someone that can shoot and that can play with the puck a little better than those guys.
Yeah. Yeah, I think back when we were all, I say all, but I feel like a lot of us were begging for the what we now have as the Forsberg, Duchene, Granlund line. It made so much sense when you saw it. It was dynamic. It worked really well, and then it was taken away from us.
Yeah.
And we wanted it back. We begged. We finally got it back, and I think the results speak for themselves, quite frankly. So I think, when you've seen Tomasino play with more dynamic playmakers, it works. So then to then see him mired with guys like McCarron and Cole Smith, you hope that whatever it is that is driving that decision to keep these guys on the ice with him, just something changes to say, you know what, this isn't really working. Let's try this. And you see a change. I mean, that's what that's what I hope for. But
Well,
You know,
we've kind of already spoiled the result here, but basically the second thing that I think needs to happen has to do with McCarron and Cole Smith, and that is that they do not need to be in Nashville right now. There are a lot of other options that I think would make more sense. One of which would be Tommy Novak. If you remember early in the season, Tommy Novak played with Tomasino and Nick Cousins on a line. The numbers on that, go look at that tweet that I tweeted out. I replied to that with a chart that basically shows that Tommy Novak, Tomasino, and Cousins were on a line together that was excellent in terms of generating chances and it suppressing them at the other end.
Yeah.
They have been very good. And I don't really know what happened with Tommy Novak. He got COVID like late December and then never came back to Nashville. He's now in Milwaukee playing for the Admirals now. That doesn't make any sense to me. Why was Tommy Novak not immediately returned as soon as he was healthy? Because that line was really good. They were also good on the power play. They were basically the power play too with Cunnin, and they were great. I mean, even Nick Cousins, who I don't think needs to be on the power play, looked pretty good on the power play with those guys.
Oh, and that's what you want, right? You want players that can lift other players up.
Yeah.
And I don't know. There has to be an element to a player's game to be able to be lifted up. And you're saying, or you're seeing, someone like Tomasino kind of struggling on this line with these other line mates. And if it's as simple as changing one thing or getting him with someone with just a little bit more skill, you'd think that would make sense and it would happen. But like you said, Novak's been like COVID and then gone. I mean, he's playing. It's not like he's, like still reeling from the after effects of COVID as far as anyone can tell. Yeah. He's just not playing in Nashville.
Doesn't make any sense. Hell, I would even take Rocco Grimaldi in Nashville at this point over those guys. Rocco Grimaldi on a line with Tomasino, that'd be fine. It wouldn't be good for like the long-term production because Grimaldi's not going to be around next year. But in the short term, I would take Grimaldi with Tomasino over those guys any day. I mean, Grimaldi has, and by the way, Grimaldi's been very good in Milwaukee. He has taken that assignment and he's taken that assignment and run with it. I mean, he's just playing very hard and scoring goals. And then there's Cody Glass. Potentially that's an option too. Cody Glass has 36 points in 41 games. Now Nick Cousins is injured right now. And he's deemed week to week. I'm not sure when they'll get him back. I don't really know the details there, but that's going to be well. But you've got to find something better than what Tomasino's dealing with right now.
Oh, I agree, 1,000%.
Yeah,
but I'll tell you, I've got some stats here, Alex. I don't know if you're ready for this. I don't know if you're ready for this truth bomb that I'm about to drop on you.
I can prepare.
Some pretty serious stuff, and maybe you see it in the notes, but there's some stuff that's not in there that I'm going to share. Are you ready for these numbers? Listen.
Let's see it.
Novak 1, Cole Smith 3, McCarron 6, Grimaldi -6. Do you know what these numbers are?
I'm plus minus, or what is it?
Inches above 6 feet.
All right, got it. You said inches, and I got worried, but now I understand.
It's not that kind of show, Alex. Goodness gracious. My kids watch this show. My kids watch this show.
Okay, all right.
But no, here's
above
the thing.
6 feet. That is above 6 feet.
And I'm going to say this. You can't coach height. You can't coach height. You don't need to. And if what you're going for is a big body out there, look no further. I mean, the argument is right there in front of you as plain as day. McCarron is a tall boy. He's a big boy. Cole Smith is a big boy too. Now, interestingly enough, McCarron is our obvious stat leader with 6, but I had Cole Smith coming in second with a 3. Cody Glass also a 3. Could be a good argument there for bringing him up. And so if I'm looking at the numbers, and these numbers do seem to dictate who's on the ice, Glass would probably be the first one I'd see coming.
Tomasino is like a 0, I think, right? Because I think he's exactly 6 feet.
Yeah, I didn't look that one up.
I'll look him up real quick.
I think maybe he may be a -1. I'm not sure.
He's 6 foot. He's a 0.
Okay.
Tomasino's a 0.
He's even.
Philip Forsberg's only a 1.
we're talking about different things on the fourth line, though, Alex.
Yeah. I understand.
I mean, I'm not going to look at the second line and start worrying about their inches over
I know.
6 feet if they're putting up big numbers. I mean, you got to have if this is the style of game you're going for, this is the kind of fourth line you want, is a big fourth line, and I
mean, but it's
can't
just
argue with it.
I know you're being facetious here, and you're saying this tongue in cheek, of course, but this is the John Hines way. When it comes to ordering cans of beer, John Hines is tall boys all day.
Nothing wrong
right?
with that.
Tall
Nothing wrong with
boys.
that.
He wants tall boys.
Yeah. Why have 12 ounces when you could have 16?
I think Hines understands what works better in his system, but I think he's giving way too much credit for some of the guys that just can't put it together. He got Jeannot in there, who's a bigger guy. Trennan's not huge, but he plays bigger for sure. And so I think he maybe wants to recreate that and find that in Cole Smith or Michael McCarron. He's been pushing the Cole Smith. Remember, Cole Smith made the opening night roster in John Hines' first full year.
Mm-hmm. I do remember that. We were all very shocked and surprised.
Yeah. So over Tolvanen and over all kinds of guys. So very good point, very good stat, because I think that is something that's just as long as John Hines is in town, he's always going to prefer that, and it's going to, I wonder if they're going to draft similarly to that. If they're only going to draft bigger dudes. I can't remember. I don't think maybe some of the guys they drafted last year are like that, but yeah, it's a very good point by you. So, okay, let me just touch on this briefly. I don't think we need to spend too much time on this, but I wanted to add an addendum to this. 2 things that need to happen. There are 2 things that don't need to happen. One of those is that Roman Yossi does not need to change anything about his game. That guy is dominating. He is like an integral part of this team's everything, their attack, their defense, special teams, all of it. He is a huge, huge part of it. I'll tell you right now, if something were to happen to Roman Yossi, this team would fall apart. It completely fall apart.
Yeah. I agree with you. And I think let's see, didn't he miss 2 games earlier in the season and they lost both of them?
They lost both of them, yeah.
Yeah. And someone's probably going to say, well, they just lost 4 games with them, guys. But
no,
you're right.
I think anyone who's honestly watching the game and paying attention at all, like they see Roman Yossi doing everything out there. I mean, the entire offense runs through him. He is, okay, take that slashing play. That slashing play that he had that committed a penalty, as you pointed out, like if he doesn't do that, it's an empty net goal anyways.
Yeah.
It's not like so the guy always makes good decisions. I mean, of course he makes mistakes. Everyone does, but I don't think there's anything about Roman Yossi that needs to change at all.
No. You say he took that slashing penalty, but it would have been an empty net goal. I mean, the fact that he was there to begin with is, he was in the right place to make it happen.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things I don't think you can take away from Yossi is he always seems to be everywhere he needs to be. The man can see the ice. The man can see where plays are going. He can see what things are going to happen before they happen. And it's almost otherworldly the way. What is it? Chris Mason calls him, does he call him the Nightcrawler, one of the X-Men that can, teleport from place to place? I think that's a pretty apt description.
Yeah, it is.
Because he's exactly where he needs to be about 99% of the time. You can never really take that away. So he doesn't need to change anything he's doing.
And then the other thing that doesn't need to change, and I don't want to spend too much time on this because we've already talked about this guy a lot, and we might have more to talk about in the future because the trade deadline will come up. But they do not need to trade Philip Forsberg. I think that is settled. I think that I don't think they will. I think that there's no amount of, well, there's not no amount, but there's very little that David Boyle would give up to trade Philip Forsberg right now. They need him. And they have the money to re-sign him if they can just get whatever the details that are not fixed yet. I'm guessing it's term. If they can get those details worked out, they have the money to sign him to what he wants. So they need to do that.
It's got to be term. You
Yeah,
put out
that's
an
got to be
article.
the issue.
You put out an article that was really really helpful and explanatory. I think, talking about how signing Borowiecki really helps, kind of
Yeah.
ensure that there's a ton of cap space left.
Yeah.
Um, the only thing I could see, and I don't want to go down hypothetical, boulevard here, but unless it was some kind of blockbuster Wayne Gretzky esque, acquisition, I don't see anything happening. I don't see him
Right.
going anywhere unless they, for whatever reason, can't agree on term, which, at
Mhm.
this point, why not?
I think so. The blockbuster thing is not a that is the only possibility I see because like if they were to trade, let's take I'm just throwing out a name out here because I don't know that this person would even get traded, but let's say that it was someone that is already locked up to a long-term deal on another team
Yeah.
that the Predators could take on in order for this other team, and then there was also a trade. It was like a trade and sign where like Forsberg is traded and then signs, almost similar to the Kyle Turris thing. The original Matt Duchene, Kyle Turris, Sam Girard, Senators, Avalanche, Predators thing, where the issue was contract with Kyle Turris. He didn't want to be in in Ottawa anymore, so they trade him to Nashville. He signs in Nashville. Duchene goes to Ottawa. Colorado gets all that stuff. Something like that, I think you could see if it was like a 3-team deal or maybe just 2-team deal where there's a trade and sign aspect, and the Predators are getting someone that's very good in return that's already signed through a lot of years. I really can't think of an example of who that would be, but I don't know, Johnny Gaudreau or something. But probably not him. But I'm just saying, like someone like that that's like a good player that's already signed and they could count on for the next few years to be there. Because that's the only way Poyle would be willing to give up Forsberg is if he knows he's getting a quality player in return. He doesn't want to do it just for draft picks. This team is not a
No,
sell off and build up draft capital right now kind of team.
no. And I'm going to tell you, just you putting a name out there just made me sad. I
That name is not. They're not. That I shouldn't have mentioned that name. I
no,
was
but
thinking of a player that's like because they're the same age, I think, or they're at least close.
but what name? I think there is a very short list of names that you could put there that would yield any kind of positive response. I mean,
There probably is a
can
very short list. Mark
yeah,
Stone would be the only other one that would list it. That would be pretty positive
yeah, he's a good
if we're
player.
talking about like actual tradable people.
Yeah, no,
But
you're right.
so, um, all right. So yeah, there's a lot going on now. We got to spend some time talking about next week because there's a lot going on next week. The first thing is the Predators play Tuesday at Florida, and that is a 6 p.m. start. Wait, is that a makeup game too? No,
I think so.
it might be.
I think so because I believe it was going to be the first game back was
Dallas.
Dallas, and then
Yeah.
immediately into the Stadium Series.
So the last of the makeup games is Tuesday at Florida. It's a 6 p.m. start. And then the craziness begins.
Oh
First
boy!
of all, Thursday, they take on the Dallas Stars at home. It's a 7:30 p.m. start for the game because prior to that is the Pekka Rinne number retirement ceremony. Pekka Rinne is already in town. Did you see the Preds tweeted that or put that on Instagram? He's already here.
I did see that, and I felt like when he's here, the state just seems a little better.
The weather got better.
Weather got better.
Warmed up. It warmed up over the last 24 hours
Yeah,
because
yeah,
Pekka Rinne is in town. That's going to be fun. And then, do you want to talk about Friday night?
yeah. But before I talk about Friday night, I do want to mention that you said the craziness starts on Thursday. Really, Alex, the craziness starts tomorrow on Monday. Do you know why?
Why?
Because tomorrow the Nashville Zoo is naming a goat after Pekka
Oh,
Rinne.
I did see that.
Now,
What
that's
does that mean?
exciting to me.
Is he going to be there?
He will be there.
Yeah.
I mean, that's impressive.
They're naming the goat Pekka, right? I guess that's
Yes.
right.
Yes. Well,
Okay.
they're not naming. Wait. Yeah. I was gonna make a joke, but it was dumb. Yeah, they're naming the goat Pekka. It's so there'll be a literal goat there and also a figurative goat there.
Right.
Okay, but yes, let's. Oh, well,
Yeah. Fast forward to Friday. So Thursday the Rene game. Friday, what happens?
yeah, Friday is pretty exciting. And I'll say this: Friday, of course, everyone is invited. Alex, I know you're invited, and I'm pretty sure you'll be there
I'm
to
going to be there.
to the Renegades of Puck home base freakout, and that is at the Tailgate Brewery, which in this location is 1538 de Munbrian Street. We had talked about that last week, and I said I'm pretty sure it's on de Munbrian. I was right. Now
You're
I've got
right.
an address that starts at 7 o'clock. Going to be a lot of special guests there, including Mike Fisher. Alex Doherty will be there.
Shaun Smith.
I'll be there. Bobby Ryan will be there. A lot of pretty cool hockey names. It's pretty exciting. The wrestler Eric Young, of course, will be there. But we'd like to see everybody out there. It's just a good chance for the entire Nashville hockey community to get together and have a good time in advance of the Stadium Series. A couple of other pretty exciting things happening. They're having at the Ford Ice Center in Bellevue on Saturday from 8 in the morning to 1 p.m. a veterans showcase where 4 teams of veterans from across the country are coming together to play in a hockey tournament. It should be pretty exciting. Maybe something else you'd want to check out. And of course, you don't even need a ticket to the game to come to this, but the whole pregame festivities will be open for anybody who wants to go down. I know for a fact that the Stanley Cup will be there.
There you go. The Stanley Cup will be on hand.
On hand for you to stand by and preferably not touch, especially if you're a Tampa Bay fan, because you've touched it enough.
Yeah, they have. Are they bringing it with them? I guess they just bring it with them. I don't know.
No, I think the guy that I think they've probably had their turn with it, and then it's back in its little velvet lined box.
Right. So yeah, the Stadium Series game. I went and took some pictures of the build out at the hockey rink build out. It's looking pretty good. I think that the images of the final how it's going to look on game day are pretty spectacular. I'm pretty excited about what that's going to look like. It's going to be all like lit up with the little lines and pyro stuff. It's going to be crazy. I think it's going to look great.
Yeah, that the overlay that they're going to have out there. I think when I saw the initial rendering, I said, this is going to look awesome. And then they started talking about how all the elements were designed to look like neon signs. And my curiosity was, obviously you can't put neon like that on the ground. It'll break. It's very fragile and delicate. But I followed up with the NHL, and they said that in fact all that would be lit up with LEDs, which I think is going to look really, really good.
That's going to look great.
The fact that it's at night, if you look back on the Winter Classic, which took place during the day, you just kind of lose that element for that glow, I guess, under the lights in the dark out there. So that's going to be. It's weird to me that at my age I'm that excited about the way something's going to be lit, but I'm pretty excited. I think it's going to
be great. I'm looking forward to what the final product looks like. Going to be a fun time. And hopefully a lot of people will show up. I think it's got a chance to have a lot of people. I wonder how many Bolts fans will be coming too. So
I've heard there's a big faction coming, talking to our to the on the forecheck sister site for the Tampa Bay Lightning, Raw Charge. They said they've got a ton of people coming. It is a fan base that travels well, so I think we'll have a big showing. I think it'll be really good.
There you go. Well, that's going to do it for our show. Good one. We got a lot covered here. You can check out all of our hockey coverage at A2ZSportsNashville.com and go to On the Forecheck as well. Check out Shaun and everything that they write over there. Follow me on Twitter at AlexDarty1. Follow Shaun at SCSOTF. And we will see everyone next week after all these huge games. Really looking forward to it. See you guys at the home base takeover freakout.
Home base freakout, Alex.
Home base freakout. Check it out, and we'll see everyone next week.